So, hi everyone, my name is Prajot Mainkar. I'm going to talk about Intel's HAXM and Bacon Mountain. Just a quick question to the audience. How many of you are aware of any of these terms which I mentioned on the slides? Just to get an idea of the audience. One. So, it's just one. Okay, cool. So, I think it's going to be very interesting. I'm going to tell you about HAXM and Bacon Mountain. Okay, so what's their agenda? So I'm going to talk about Android ecosystem overview. I'm pretty keen about knowing ecosystem. I am very much interested into knowing the statistics about what are the flavors getting used by the audience. Intel's Android tool summary, just a quick slide which explains what are the tools available by Intel for the developers like all of us. And finally we come to something related to the HAXM, debugging and optimization using Intel's Accelerated Hardware Execution Manager, short form as Intel HAXM. Okay, so I'm going to give you some practical examples how and where it could be used, and you guys are going to have, the volunteers are around, so obviously they will help you out in getting this set up. I'm going to tell you about setup, so this is going to be more like a workshop. So I'm going to tell you about where and how to integrate HAXM with your emulator. So let's go to the first slide which explains the Android distribution. Now if you check the slides, this particular slide, it's very obvious that 4.1.x, 4.2.x and 4.3 summarizes to 50% above usage. So ideally it makes sure that more than 50% are using 4.x.x. Now, interesting fact, if you observe, the previous versions have all got waved up. They are not no more any on the slide. Now, next comes the version which is Gingerbread at 26.6, and Froyo and other versions. They are like still holding the spot. So, as we were talking about the slide, one interesting thing, in fact, which I find really funny is what that Honeycomb is actually doing there at 0.1. It should have by now actually gone off. And at the same time, it's really, I'm actually very happy to share that my first device was actually using Froyo. So I was pretty happy. It's still like 1.7. So that device is not really off the loop. But yeah, coming to the serious note, Froyo and Honeycomb is expected to get dissolved soon. It won't be there. And of course, I mean, it's like, it's delightfully chilly out there. So, yeah, I mean, this is the trend. But we soon will see only the versions which I mentioned, 4.x.x getting the share. Particularly, I would say the Jelly Bean version. Ice cream sandwich obviously is getting a shift towards Jelly Bean. Most of the phones are getting updates. So obviously, the shares of the ice cream sandwich will get shifted to Jelly Bean. But yeah, I mean, that's the statistics for now. We go to the next slide, which explains the smartphone reach. Now, the interesting thing about here is the communication technology company recently revealed some statistics for Q3 this year, and it revealed that smartphone accounted for 55% of the worldwide handset sales during this particular period, which is really massive. If you check the statistics, by actually estimated for 2019, and it still says that it represents just 25% to 30% of the all mobile subscriptions, which is really massive. Now, if you ask me the trend, if you check this graph as well, by 2019, 5.6 billion of the 9.3 billion mobile subscription worldwide, that is nearly catering to around 60% of overall, will be smartphones. Now, genuinely, if you have to ask me this question and why the reason is, one of the prominent result is, anyone? Okay, I will reveal it actually. So, this trend is because of the low price smartphones from maybe China or any other emerging markets. So you have a low budget, so obviously if I have to ask you all, I mean smartphone, I mean you get it like at very amazing price. I mean irrespective, you leave out the features at one particular point, but it's very obvious that you'll get a smartphone which probably be ranging between low budget phones. I mean you'll get it between 3 to 6 probably, and still less. I mean the trend is so much that you will get smartphones which are cheap. Okay, so now having spoken about the shares of smartphone. Now this is a study which is revealed by Comscope Mobilance. Now they have a very interesting statistics. If you guys are really interested, you can check out their statistics. They actually reveal several facts. One of them is the companies, or they release data about smartphones and OEMs. Okay, so now this particular statistic, if you see, I don't know how many of you can see this at back, but important thing is to just, it's all about Android versus Apple in Comscope. So you see, Apple's dominance as a top smartphone OEM has not been surpassed the 40% mark. Okay, it's still showing around 39.9. Okay, and now coming to the main competitors, I mean, if you compare the competitors, it's like if you have to rate it, it's HTC, Motorola, and LG in the market. I'm pointing out to the left chart. Now, if you compare the platform space, Google still holds the spot, and courtesy Android, and subsequently for Apple it's iOS, but later continues to gain the lead. I mean, the Apple has been gaining the lead. I mean, if you see the trend, it's been a trend that Apple has been really doing pretty good for maybe last couple of months, and which was not the case. I mean, which was not the case like maybe 6 to 7 months back. But yeah, I mean, let's not get into competition of Android and iOS. But now coming to the other statistics of smartphone platforms, then it's Apple, BlackBerry, Microsoft, and then Symbian. Okay, now coming to some factors which we all bother about. I mean, we don't just buy phones for sake. I mean, we just don't want phones to SMS. There are various other aspects to it, and now, of course, WhatsApp. But we just don't use it for one particular use. We use it for several purposes. I mean, innumerous. I mean, you don't have to really, judge stuff. But the most important thing is the performance. How well your phone reacts to what you really want it to do. So here there are 4 major things which come into picture. One of them is music, video, and camera. I mean, that's like 3 major components of the phone. I mean, if I were to ask anyone of you saying that buy a phone which has no camera, trust me, 90% plus people will say we want camera. Okay, so ultimately camera is just not about taking pictures, there's a lot more beyond to it. So it's videos, a lot of things. I mean, I don't have to really take that into consideration as of now, but there's a lot of things to it. Battery life. You travel from A point to B point, and you still feel, oh, my battery is not giving. So ultimately, there's a lot of fluidic things which are really required. You need that juice in the battery. Okay, again, comes into performance. Application, virtual machine. That's what we're going to talk about. Most of us are developers. So we need to test the application. We want some good experience in testing applications. I have a couple of videos which will actually demonstrate this. Plus, you guys are actually going to set up a HAXM. Web browsing. WebKit, I mean, most of you all must be knowing what is WebKit, and good HTML5 application. Now, HTML5 is obviously cross-platform. So if you want to develop for, say, phone gap or accelerator, so it's cross-platform. So one code you can probably deploy to several platforms and can work. And of course, 2D and 3D games. We're not going to focus more on 2D or 3D games, but yeah, I mean, that's something which is really required. You love games because game really has good graphics, but at the same time they have to react to what your sensitivity to the phone is. So at the same time, how well your battery is getting performed, or how well the whole game, for the whole structuring works. You don't want to install any game which is a killer, isn't it? I mean, it's like having some games which has got a lot of ads. You just spend your half of your life just clicking advertisements. Other day we had installed a game and it was like cancelling several times. Trust me, I have installed it. So let's talk about Intel solutions for Android. 3 important things, out of which we are going to talk about Beacon Mountain and HAXM. The first one is the studio for Android. This is a system studio of Intel for Android. Of course, this is available only on NDA, and as you read through, it's a deep system level insights into power, reliability, and performance for the Intel. and it's an architectural based smartphone. It's for architectural based and smartphone. So we assume that it's all about Intel architecture here. So whether we are going to use HAXM, we assume that whatever we're going to try is going to be on Intel Core. Okay, I'm going to talk about it in depth when we come to the installation. Then Beacon Mountain. Beacon Mountain provides productivity-oriented design, coding and debugging tools for application, targeting Android-based ARMs and Atom processor-based devices, including you can consider a smartphone or any other devices which are powered. So as I have to simplify saying that it's more on it. Now, C++ compiler for Android, it's public compiler for Linux-based systems to create apps with performance edge for Android devices based on Intel architecture. So as I mentioned that if we are talking about HAXM, we need to have particular Intel cores for the support. So we spoke about Beacon Mountain. So this is a particular slide which is going to explain a complete scenario of what Beacon Mountain is in the brief. Okay. Now, host support, target support, price, availability. Trust me, I'm sure that the moment I started with this presentation, it was very clear that this particular Beacon Mountain HAXM is free to use, except for the previous slide, the first point which I mentioned about that you require an NDA for it. That's the only way you require an NDA, but comparatively, HAXM and Beacon Mountain, it's free to download, free to use. But of course, there is also a clause. Intel does ask you for a lot of feedbacks. So in return, in case you want to give a feedback, improvement feedbacks, it's for the community which you can get involved into. Anyway, so coming back to Beacon Mountain here is using a host support supports most of the latest OS, Apple, and the target supports are something where we are going to really work on today. So Jelly Bean 4.1, 4.2, 4.3, ARM Gingerbread 2.3 and up. So this is like target support. I don't think so I have to explain what is host and target, but it's more into where you're going to actually deploy it and where you're going to really work on it. So work and deploy. Price free, availability, you can actually go to this, something which you can really note down. I am going to provide all this links at the end of my slide, which is going to explain you what and from where you can actually download it. So now coming to Beacon Mountain's Intel tools for x86. Now if you see, you have Intel Hardware Accelerator Execution Manager, which we're going to talk about. Graphic performance analysis. We're not going to talk about graphic performance analysis today, but most importantly, it's a very interesting concept. If anyone wants to really get into performance domain, it's a really nicely put up. If you can actually go to the side of Intel. Threading building blocks and software manager. So these are the tools available for x86. Now coming back to the third-party tools and ARM for ARM and x86. Google Android SDK. Each and everyone here has got Android SDK, so I don't need to really explain. Android SDK ADD bundle. NDK, native development kit. Eclipse integrated development environment, that is what we're going to use, and I'm going to tell you how to integrate HAXM. Android design. And Segment. I mean, this is something which interests me a lot. Can anyone tell me what is Segment? Anyone? It's a very interesting thing. Okay. So let me put this in a simplest manner. Segment is Linux-based environment for Windows, making it possible to put software running on POSIX systems. Okay, so you can POSIX systems like Linux, PST Unix systems to Windows. Okay, so that's what the role of Segment comes into. Okay, I have a video here which I could play, and I don't know how many of you would be able to hear this, but this is very interesting video which was previewed at this year's Intel conference, and it's one of my favorite videos actually.
Hi developers, I'm David Hooper. My colleague Stephen LaBelle. We're here to introduce you to the Android suite. Stephen will be describing the contents of the suite for you, and I'll be introducing you to the demos.
This exciting product sets up your
Android development environment for Intel architecture and ARM devices. Now, getting a new project started is quick and easy with fast setup, including Eclipse, common Android SDKs, and Intel tools. The Android suite provides the tools you need to design, code, debug, and accelerate application development. The Android suite supports Jelly Bean and recent Android APIs up to version 17. It also supports a wide range of hosts, including Windows 7 and 8, with additional support including Mac OS X coming in future versions. It helps shorten your development cycle by enabling applications and components created using it to support both Intel Atom and ARM-based devices, including the Motorola Razr Eye smartphone, other smartphones, and tablets. When you install the Android suite, you install an arsenal of Intel and third-party tools to help you create high-performance Android applications. Tools included are the Intel Hardware Accelerated Execution Manager, Intel Graphics Performance Analyzers, Intel Thread Building Blocks, Intel Integrated Performance Primitives, Android Developer Tools, including Eclipse, Android SDK, Android NDK, and the Android suite keeps you up to date in a fast-paced, ever-changing Android ecosystem by checking for updates and getting new releases.
Hi, so I'm here now to talk to you about the demos that have been provided with the Android suite. The first demo will show you the Intel Integrated Performance Primitives suite. This suite covers signal processing and image processing languages. The Android suite installs IPP Preview for Android. To demonstrate IPP, we use the camera capture on the phone, which is at a 15 frames per second update. We run an edge detection algorithm. This has about 15 milliseconds available through it. The reference version shows clearly that it cannot run the algorithm in the time allotted. When using the IPP primitives, we are able to clearly say within that 15 milliseconds and keep a constant 15 frames per second. The Android suite also installs HAXM, the Hardware Accelerated Execution Engine. The demo shows the emulator running on laptops and within a development environment. The 5x increase that is available allows full development on an emulator without the need for hardware. Our next demo is of Intel's Graphics Performance Analyzer. GPA enables actionable game performance and frame analysis by providing a real-time view of over 24 critical system metrics covering the CPU, GPU, and OpenGLES API. It also supports in-depth monitoring of complex gaming and graphics, allowing application and driver engineers to optimize workflows. The metrics displayed show both CPUs, frames per second, number of graphics primitives per second, vertices per second, and texture loads. The last tool offered on the Android suite is the Intel Threading Building. TDB allows you to simplify parallelism by boosting application performance with pre-tested algorithms and features. It also ensures code scales to today's and tomorrow's processor. The demonstration is a ray tracing algorithm of the tachyon particle. Our demonstration shows it in both single-threaded and multi-threaded views so that you can see the tremendous increase in performance. Thank you for joining us today. We invite you to visit the URL displayed below, where you will get free downloads and additional information.
So now coming to the workshop area, right? Something which we all were looking for. So, what do you require before we start? So, in case anyone faces any issue, just get back to me or the volunteers who are going to help you out. I assume that most of you have the AD with you installed on your system. So, what you require is SDK version 17 or more. Okay, you can note down that link, but all these links I've already compiled and I will be giving you in my final slide. System requirements, most importantly, is the Intel processor, okay, with Intel's VDX support and XD bit functionality, and 1 GB of RAM. So why this 1 GB of RAM we are going to come to the latest level, it's going to explain you that. And operating system supported. Most of the latest ones along with other flavors of Mac OS, Windows flavors of course, and it also supports on Linux. Okay, so let me just go through the lab steps. I mean, what do you require? Now, there are two ways. One, you can use Android SDK Manager, which I don't think I need to explain what is Android SDK Manager. Do I? Okay, so Android SDK Manager is one option. The other option is directly downloading the file, which I am going to give you the link. This is the screenshot which tells you about how the downloads will look. Now, if you are using Windows 8 or Mac OS, there is one different section which is already added here, which is hotfix. Okay, so just take a note of what version are you using. So if you are using a particular version, like in this case Windows 8.1, in that you need to download this particular file. Or else if you are using 10.9 Mac, in that case there is another option where you have three options. If you go to the portal, you have three options: Mac, Linux, and Windows. You will see a corresponding options. Depending on the OS version, you need to download this. Okay, so now we are going to do the first method, that is directly downloading it. So this is something which I tried it on my system. So these are screenshots which shows the first step. Once you start installing it, it's a standard installer. You will able to see a screen something like this if you are using on Mac. I'm going to tell you about Windows in the next slide. Okay, I hope most of you have the HAXM setup, so you can actually start clicking. So the moment you go to the next one, you have to select the RAM. Now, as you see there, HAXM reserves a portion of RAM while running. Okay, so ideally you need to select value, so which is available from the slider, and you just pick and it allocates the memory from running RAM. Now, here comes, once you select it, by default it will select 1024 memory for all x86 accelerators, followed by some 310 KB space on your computer. Okay, that's the space it takes. So it's pretty lightweight when it comes to. Okay, so once you have gone through this, I hope everyone is trying along. So this is in Mac, as I mentioned. So once you start, this is the end slide right here. Now, you've done installing. Most importantly, check the process what it is, especially in Linux and Mac. Try to check the processes which are running. Okay, so this is grep command which I have used to check if Intel process is running. So once you command, that's my system name. So it gives you com.intel.catch.intel.HAXM. Okay, so kxt.intel.HAXM. So that's the return which after checking the command. Okay, so you can actually check it on respective OS. Now, coming to Windows, I see a lot of happy spaces around Windows. Okay, so this is what this lab setup for standalone installer is. All you need to do is just download it on your Windows. It's pretty simple. Just click next. If you cannot see this slide, it is 1024 and you can set it manually. So as again 1024 is ideal. Then you have this. It gives you the command every time, like in Mac. One of the important things which I have come across, many people ask me. This is a step which they release, so I thought of including this slide now. Most importantly is you have to enable virtualization technology in your BIOS. So once you set this up, that error which you get, that is VTX error which you get, will be moved off from the installation. So you do not have any halt. So if you check the screen, it has got one option in virtualization technology which is to be unable to actually wave off that error. So you can read more about this installation at software.intel.com/en-us/android. That's the place you will have most of the information regarding this step which I already mentioned. Now, once you've done that, you have Eclipse video version. I told you about the several versions which. Now, if you check the screenshot now, you have two important things which you need to do. First, you have to check Intel x86 atom system image, the system image which is required. Now HAXM gives you, you need to have three important things. One is the Intel core, HAXM driver and the system image. Okay, so HAXM already set up, we assume in the previous slides whatever we have done. Coming to the important thing is now x86 system image. For a particular level, you need to make sure that you are installing the system image. So respective one, if you just check on your system, you're connected to the internet, you will see system images for the respective versions. Once you've done that, if you don't want to install it via a standard installer, then you have an option called as x86 emulator accelerator, HAXM, which comes directly in extras. So you can, instead of choosing to install, you can directly select and you can make sure that you check, uncheck, check the option, because if it is installed, you will be able to see it. Just if it's, you need to check if it's not installed, just uncheck this and you will see it popping out there if it is not installed. So you can just check it and then you can go ahead with the installation. Now, once that is done, you need to create an AVD. Okay, so I will explain you via slide and then explain you via the system image from the AVD. So, if you check this right now, all you need to do is, once the setup is done, go to Windows, go to your Android virtual device. Okay, so the moment you click that, it's the basic setup, isn't it? The only difference comes, it's when you select, and this is a screen which you will see AVD, so the most people who have not have seen a difference, you will see a difference at this particular point, because you will see a CPU get popping out some options as well. Now if you write any name here, a device, select the device, select the target. Okay, after you select the target, you will get a couple of options. You select Intel iAtom x86, RAM, you can check this host GPU. Okay, so look at the pointers out there, memory options, use host GPU, and these are the setups. So once you are done with this, you will be able to have a system, the AVD, which will have a complete powers of HAXM. Now, once you click on this, so once you actually do OK and you come down, you will see this line which gives you the target AVD. Once you start it, you will see a difference between the emulator. Roughly, I'm sure that the basic emulator which when you start, it takes a lot of time, isn't it? And it's like you wait and probably you need to just wait for a while. It's done. Trust me, try HAXM, you will have a complete swap over. You will have a wall of time. So once you start it, in fact, I will add one more thing here. You just have another emulator which is not supported by HAXM. Okay, that means you can set up another AVD which is not having powers of HAXM, and you try running it and simultaneously compare both the images. I will tell you about this image thing. So I will tell you. Let me just show you on Eclipse. When I started using this for the first time, it was like I could see the differences immediately. I mean, it is like you enjoy a faster ride. Okay, so let me show you on the emulator. Usually, I'm sure that most of you, when you actually started with development in Android, you must have found that okay, emulator instance is running and it's like clunky. I mean, you feel like oh, probably I will have a coffee and come back and then operate. So that's something which HAXM gives you a complete different makeover. You feel completely pleasant. You feel like okay, it's really running quick. So I go to Android virtual device and yeah, I mean if I select say demo today, demo Nitrodroid, and I have several options. Do you see this? If I select a particular version, which is like, it doesn't allow me to select anything else. But then, the moment I select 4.2, it gives me a couple of options, ARM and Intel Atom. Okay, so the moment I click this, and you have probably use host GPU and say, okay, you will have that AVD getting created. Sure, one interesting thing. Okay. Now, once you are running this, you will see several messages. One of them will be HAXM command, which will be popped out at the screen. Just need to load a little bit, and you will see. Also in the console you are able to see that. Okay, so that's how. And when you go to the settings, about phone, that's where you will be able to even read out HAXM details. Now, the question comes is how fast? Okay, now this is a screenshot which gives you the boot up differences. Now the first boot usually takes time. I mean, we all know about it. Now there are three bars. Okay, one of them is API 15 ARM. The next one is API 15 x86 GPU, and you have the third one, the red one, which is the highlight here. It's API 15 x86 HAXM. You see the difference. You see a complete difference, and this is not just statistically, but it's like you see that this is against the seconds. You see how the difference is. Okay, now this is a screenshot which I have taken from the Intel source, and you see a difference. Okay, now the left hand side is Intel HAXM with Intel HAXM to be very specific, and to the right you have non-Intel image. Now, coming to this is see the moment it is already booted, it's completely booted. You already have the unlock lock screen, which you probably just unlock and you will see the features of within. I mean, you'll be able to explore the emulator, but at the same time it's still booting. It's still in the process. 0.40, it's the time it's loaded. Where in the other side you have actually started exploring the emulator. Okay, so that's where the difference is. Okay, so now we come to the last slide actually. I mean, just to wrap this up. The idea for this workshop was to get hold of HAXM and make it. I'm going to come to everyone's desk now to check how HAXM has been set. Now, quickly wrap this up. Beacon Mountain sets up and maintains your development environment for creating native Android apps for ARM and x86 based devices. We talked about HAXM manager, speed execution. Now, let me just quickly. So, this is the only place where you need to take care. I mean, once you create a new, you can actually, which I mentioned it earlier. Same. I think I have it here. Yeah. So this is what we had created earlier. This is where you can toggle this, and you can actually probably, if you have some other emulators out there, just try to launch this maybe by another name. So you can actually make this as ARM, and you see a difference. Now you try launching both of them on your system. I will come personally to check on the system. You will see a difference. You will see a difference of boot up time. First boot up time and second boot up time. You will just remember the slide which I mentioned. There would be slide length. Of course, now one important thing which I need to mention out here. It is not like it depends on the hardware as well. I mean the statistics what I showed earlier onto the here. The statistics. Now this depends on the hardware requirement as well. I mean what the host system is. Okay, so it depends completely. So this might be a particular statistical system which is probably used for testing. Now, if you want to know what are some of the tools which you can actually use, or how we could calculate boot of them, some tools which you could determine are SunSpiders, LinSpark, Schema, and does a lot of scoring when you have the benchmarking done. Now, I have a video. This is one of the links which you can even mention. I gave you one link earlier. This is another link which you can actually mention onto your notepads. And I have a video here which will be playing and which will tell you about, again, it's of the developer conference as well. And interesting, you will see a difference between HAXM powered launches, and you will see how feasible, how fluid, how quick it is, how swift you can work on HAXM powers.
Hello, my name is Eric Adams, and I'm a technical marketing engineer that works in SSD. And I've got 2 Android demos I'm going to show here at IDF 2013 in San Francisco. On the left side, I've got a HAXM demo. HAXM is a driver that we developed for Windows and Mac that will make the Android emulator run a lot faster. On the left side, I've got an ARM Android image that I'm emulating, and I'm running an app called RSFalls. This is a render script app that's very CPU intensive. You can see that it runs very slowly because you're emulating an ARM instruction on top of Intel. On this side, I've got an Intel system image that I'm emulating for Android, running the same RSFalls, except this is using our HAXM driver with the Intel virtualization technology turned on in the BIOS, and you see you get a much faster emulator experience. We're trying to encourage developers to use our driver and our free system image to download and test their Android apps. And for the symbol on the right, I have an open source build from our Android Island project on 01.org. This is for system integrators and developers who want to try Android on a Core i5 system to test it out. This build supports the Acer W700 tablet, which is a Windows 8 tablet. I've got Google Earth installed, and you can see the performance is really, really quite good with full 3D texture support enabled. This is much faster than any other Android tablets on the market. This is using our previous generation Core i5 processor. Like I said, it's intended for system integrators and developers who want to try the Android on x86 without having to contact Intel first. To get this open source build, you can go to 01.org, and to get the HAXM driver, you can go to the Android SDK Manager, or you can go to the Intel.com website where we have detailed instructions on how to install it and how to configure it.
Yeah, so I'm done with my slides. Okay, so the idea of this workshop was to get a hands-on. I'm sure most of you have already set this up, and now I'll come individually to your systems and we'll see how we could actually see a difference with HAXM and because now these are some of the links which you can actually note down. I'm going to share the deck. So this is some of the side links from which you can actually. I would also suggest you to read through these two. Intel has got amazing content about building blocks and graphic performance analyzers. Very interesting, and for those people who are actually interested in probably NDKs and stuff, so some of the links which you can really explore. Okay, so yeah, so thank you so much. I will be available for some further questions, and in case you have any questions, I will be there next to you in case you have. Yeah, so thank you so much.